So we just have a couple quick things, and then we have a guest speaker today. So first of all, distinguished lecture went fabulously last week. Thank you so much, Julie. And thank you everyone coming. Julie, will you come up and get a little card? Julie worked so hard for months and months and months. And she deserves all good things now after dealing with all that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
I know, one-handed.
Yeah, classic. And then thank you to our subcommittee. We could not have done it without you. And Maddie will be needing help next year, so everyone, OT1s, keep that in mind. Speaking of which, I was planning my AOTA conference schedule, and I thought I would just put some lecturers up here who are options for us, and then also Glenn was our lecturer last year who was just absolutely amazing. So I recommend going to him. He's like a neuro-based person. And if you didn't get enough of Neil, you can go see him again. So he has got 2 short courses on Thursday and Friday, so keep that in mind. Then we'll do exec team introductions, who won the elections last month. So when your name comes up, you can just come up and give your little spiel.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I went to Kansas, so that is Baby J, the mascot, and I thought it was really cool taking this picture, and it looked presidential, so I was like, okay. I'm from Dallas, and fun fact, I have the Texas flag on the roof of my car, so if you see a blue Mini Cooper, stay away. I'm a bad driver. Again, just saying. I can't say it enough, honestly. I'm super excited to work with all of you and get everyone involved, and yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Maddie. So yeah, that's a picture of my fam and then me and my boyfriend. So I went to Iowa State. I'm from Ankeny, Iowa, which is kind of by Des Moines. Some fun facts are that my favorite foods are pizza and breakfast sandwiches. And my favorite animals are koalas. And I have ran 3 half marathons, which I have no athletic ability at all. So pretty proud of myself for that. And then I'm really excited to be vice president to develop my organizational and leadership skills, and then to just work with all of you and get to know alumni.
Hi everyone, I'm Danielle. I'm your new secretary. I'm from Maple Grove, Minnesota, and I also went to Iowa State, but I've only ran 1 half marathon, not 3. That's my dog who you guys have seen before. This is me canyoning in Greece and then skydiving, and then that's my family.
I had to keep your circles. I like that so much.
I know, it set that up for me. It's like a cool PowerPoint
Yeah.
thing they have now.
Okay, hi, I'm Nicole. I'm your new historian. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, also went to Iowa State University. I'm just super stoked to take all of your guys' pictures this year and just be able to work with the alumni inspiration series and document this year's upcoming events. And fun fact, I took 15 years of classical ballet.
All right. Hi, I'm Brooke Rasmussen. I'm the new treasurer. I'm from a small town in Nebraska called Geneva, Nebraska. So obviously growing up in Nebraska, I'm a big Husker fan. It's me and my best friend, Herbie. And then this is my family up here. I have 1 brother. I enjoy to traveling, and that's me and my friend in Paris this summer. And fun fact, when my family was in Prague, we found this little boy in our hotel that like ran away from a restaurant 3 blocks down. So we like hung out with him for a while, and then we found the police, and that was an interesting time. And yeah, I'm just excited to be the treasurer and work with the exec team.
Oh, her picture's got a little blurry. That was my bad.
Hey, I'm Katie. So this is actually supposed to be a video, but I couldn't get to work and I'm really sad about it. So that's me and my sister, my younger sister. I have 2 sisters. So me and my younger sister were both her maid of honors, and we did like a nice speech that I was about to put it in, and I'm just sad it didn't work. But that was just a glimpse of it. And so that's my mom, that's my dad, huge Husker fans. Those are my 2 grandparents that I love. So yeah, that's me, and I'm just excited to take this role and be a part of it. So yeah,
Get free lunch.
yeah.
Right. Hi, I'm Carissa. I'm the distance liaison. I'm originally from Arizona, and I did my undergrad at Colorado State. I love doing anything outdoors, so this is me on top of some 14ers. This is the highest mountain in Colorado, so something I like to do. I also love elephants. They're my favorite animals. This was them on a safari I went on. And also, fun fact, my favorite food is cupcakes, and I sent this to Annie last night, and this morning I walked into the library, and there was free cupcakes, and I freaked out. Possible.
Hi, I'm Marit. I just did a bunch of fun facts because why not? I love traveling both nationally and internationally. I've been to 13 countries, and this is me and my fiance in Xi'an, China. I have 2 cats, Luna and Dewey, and they're crazy, and I'm obsessed with them. I've watched The Office more than 20 times straight through. No joke.
Impressive. I love it.
If anyone wants to go to Office trivia night, I'm so down. I got engaged over winter break in Oregon to my fiance Liam. This is where we got engaged in front of a waterfall. And then our friends threw us a party when we got back. And I grew up in Seattle, which is up there. It's like that from the ferry. And I lived in California for the last 2 years in San Diego before coming to Omaha, which was my first time in the Midwest. So West Coast represent. Also, I'm excited to be the Go rep because go Pathway.
All right. So obviously she is not here. She's in Colorado, but we do have a lot of distance people this year. So we have a Regis rep and an Alaska rep. So she says that she is looking forward to developing her leadership skills through this incredible opportunity and working with you all in the upcoming year. And a couple of fun facts. She loves playing video games in her free time and currently Overwatch the League of Legends. I don't know what that is, but okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Claire corrected me. Overwatch and League of Legends. Okay. And this is our Alaska rep. That picture just stuns me every time. So gorgeous. And she was Miss Anchorage 2016. All right, so now we have a special guest today. Maxine is actually the OT3 president of Pi Theta last year, soon to be Dr. Holmes in 2 short months, less than that now. She's doing incredible things at QLI here in Omaha, which she's going to talk about here soon. And so the reason why I asked her is because we have OT2 volunteers there, and they were just telling me about these cool things. And I was like, well, shoot, we got to get her in here talking about it. It sounds awesome. So without further ado. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hello. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so yes, my name is Maxine Holmes. I'm an OT3. I was in the GO pathway, or am in the GO pathway. Yeah, I see that. And yeah, so I'm on my deck, and I'm at QLI. And are you guys pretty familiar with QLI, or? Yes, okay, pretty much. So yes, so let's go to the next slide. So a little bit about QLI in my deck. So QLI is actually a skilled nursing facility, but it's more programmed towards adults with brain and spinal cord injury, which is really cool. And the culture there is a little bit different. We just have a lot of different resources to really provide care from all different perspectives, I guess. It's really unique because it addresses physical rehab, medical rehab, but also real life world skills. So it's really like an OT's dream to work here. It really is, it's really opened my eyes to really providing that holistic care to the populations that we serve. Yes, so we will go to the next. So, oh yes, okay, so for my deck, sorry. I just kind of threw this together, sorry. So I'm doing half of a clinical caseload at QLI, working mostly with TBI patients, also some spinal cord injury. And then the other half that I'm doing, I'm developing a vision rehab program for them. So virtual reality fits in really nicely with vision rehab, but also with a lot of other things that we'll talk about. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing. So virtual reality, simply put, is a 3D interactive simulation of real-world environments. Key to virtual reality is that it's a human-machine interface. So a human interacting with a machine or a computer. So we'll go to the next slide. So at QLI, the virtual reality system that we have is called the Oculus Rift, which is, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You put the headset over your head, and then we have some hand controls, but basically what's projected is a 3D interactive image on the headset, and then the controls are basically like video game controls. And basically you have it set up on your tabletop, and the sensors can sense where the controls are, and it's really cool because it shows up as like hands, you know, so it really feels like they're your hands in that environment, which is really cool. Yes, so virtual reality can address honestly pretty much everything. What I do for it most is with vision, but also with upper extremity, you know, because those hand controls are there, like reaching, even grabbing. It's really cool. Like on the controls, just pressing a button can simulate grasp. Balance. So, you know, if you want to grade the activity, you can have them stand and do virtual reality, which is just a whole nother component, keeping your balance while you feel like you're walking. Gait. There's a program where it literally feels like you're walking on a bar and like you have to keep your balance. It's so spooky. It's amazing. Driving training. Yeah. So we do driving training at QLI. And it's cool because it's a good way to kind of test to see if someone's ready to take or go behind the wheel, because it is just kind of a real life type of environment. You're just totally immersed, and sometimes driving can be too much for someone's visual system, vestibular system, and it's a great way to kind of test drive that before getting behind the wheel. Also with reaction time is key to driving, and there are various programs with the virtual reality system that we have to test that. Attention is a big one, specifically like visual attention. Is key just when think about when you're playing a video game, right? You really have to pay attention to different things in your environment. And then higher level cognitive skills and problem solving. That is a really big one, especially at QLI, since we do see a lot of stroke and brain injury. Just the ability to kind of follow through with a game is yes, it's awesome. And like you have a slingshot and you're like, you know, it's awesome. And just problem solving through, how do I work a slingshot? You know, it's awesome. It really tells you a lot about the patient that you're working with and where they're at cognitively, physically, everything. It's amazing. Yeah, so there's that. Thank you. Also, so those are like the things, just like surface level things that, you know, we used to treat. But with virtual reality, it's truly amazing because mass repetition. Because, so during like a normal OT session, typically, if you're working on that repetition, getting those reps in, you typically can get 25 to 40 reps. Not a whole lot. With virtual reality, you can get up to 400 reps in a session. And it's like, what's cool about it is it's not, oh, I'm just, you know, moving my arm back and forth. It's, oh, I'm like cleaning a table in virtual reality, you know? So it really kind of brings together that occupation and repetition and makes it fun. Yeah, kind of what I said there. I mean, neuroplasticity is just key with virtual reality too, just because it combines, exactly what I said, occupation with the repetition. Also, something I learned recently was when you're playing games, specifically like video games, dopamine is released at expedited rate. And so that is also really cool. So I have some patients that just don't really want to participate in anything, aren't really motivated or depressed from their injury. And this is just a great way to motivate them and have them participate in something. And yeah, so you're completely immersed in an environment when you're in 3D or in virtual reality. And so that is exactly kind of what we as OTs strive to do as well. So it really aligns with, you know, our profession and our goals. I don't know. Do you guys think that this would be like helpful to go through cases that I've worked with or not really? You kind of, yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. So JC is a 22-year-old who experienced an anoxic brain injury after he attempted suicide. Came to QLI, pretty bad ataxia. Biggest complaint though was his vision. And also depression as well. So with him, our goal, so he's living with mom before, so we're trying to do that, but also being independent with his self-cares, mobility, and eventually going back to part-time work. So there was a lot for us to work on with him, but kind of what I was targeting was his vision. And what was interesting about him was that he had sort of like a cortical vision impairment, which is where, you know, the structure of your eyes are working great. Nothing like physically wrong, but when your brain is processing the information, that's kind of where we see that deficit. And a lot of it with him was, you know, thinking that something was wrong with him, was playing a lot into his deficits as well. So I kind of got him behind virtual reality, one, to stimulate that processing center in the brain, two, to motivate him. I mean, he's a 22-year-old guy who doesn't like video games, right? You know, I don't know. And then three, I mean, there's so many dimensions to it, I guess, you know, working on his balance, his upper extremity, everything. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go originally, just because I thought it could have been overstimulating, just too much for his brain to process. But our first time doing it went so well. He loved it. It gave him some really good positive feedback because he was able to see things so much clearer with virtual reality. And I think it was just really groundbreaking for him because it showed, okay, I do have the ability to see clearly, and I'll get there, you know? So honestly, virtual reality just kind of made it for this case, which is awesome. Any questions about that one? Okay. Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Yes.
How was he able to see clearly on virtual reality because it wasn't
Yeah.
in, like, without it?
Yeah. Good question. So how is he able to see more clearly with virtual reality than without it? So virtual reality, it's high definition. like high color, high contrast. It's right in your face. So I think, just generally speaking, I think that was the main thing. Like he could tell, I have a tomato in my hand, you know. Yeah. Mhm. Yes.
So when they do like a program, are you able to see like stats after they finish the game or whatnot, or how do you like monitor their progress?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think that is where we need to go next. So with virtual reality, there isn't a way to measure and get that quantitative data, at least with the programs that we have. So if you're doing vision rehab with someone and you need those numbers, I'd say, you know, using more of like a Dynavision or a BITS or Sanet Vision Integrator to get that. With virtual reality, it's really mostly that subjective, okay, talking through it. Like, you know, last time you were able to scan all the way to your right, but not to your left. Like, let's focus on the left. Yeah. That's a really good point, though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? So also I should probably mention, there's like a bunch of different games and different programs to use with virtual reality. Like some are more targeted towards, you know, you put them in a rolling chair and they can literally spin like all the way around to scan the like 3D environment. Like, oh, there's a big building behind me. Like, oh, like there's a dog, you know, right behind me, which is really cool to work on like scanning. There are other games that may be more focused on like that fine motor and gross motor aspect of, okay, I'm going to put a toy back in its box, or I'm going to clean a window, or things that are more occupation based. And there are even like movies that you can watch in virtual reality. So maybe for someone who's a little more lower functioning visually, be good with that. Yes. Okay. So the next case is a 21-year-old female. She was in a car accident, went through the windshield. So she had a diffuse axonal injury. It's interesting because she was doing physically so well, walking on her own. Doing her own morning routine. She was really at QLI for problem solving and also for her vision. She was pretty low functioning with her vision. Couldn't even fixate for 2 seconds on anything, which, you know, in order to participate fully and be fully independent, you do need those skills. So we initially started her revision program, which is doing ocular motilities, you know, pursuits, saccades, all that boring stuff. And then kind of felt like we weren't getting anywhere. So decided to put her into the virtual reality system, and she loved it. Her visual attention within the week that we were doing the virtual reality just expanded. She could complete a full game. Initially, she had to take the headset off after 10 seconds of being exposed to virtual reality because it was just so stimulating, and really she had to keep her eyes open, and it was just too much for her. But just within that week, we saw so much process. Oh my God. Progress. Just from, you know, basic visual skills. You know, her eventual goal was to return to driving, and we had, you know, quite a ways to get there because part of a driving eval is a vision assessment. And we got her there. So she actually discharged last week, was driving past her driver's eval, went to be living on her own, and started a full-time job as a hairdresser. So she's kind of one of those just really good success stories, you know, that we all hear about. But I think virtual reality in her case was kind of a good way to jumpstart her progress with her vision. We did a lot of other visual motor activities, but virtual reality kind of started all of that with her. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Is this boring? Okay. Okay, last one. So MC is a 23-year-old male. Basically had an intraparenchymal hemorrhage, which is just an intracerebral hemorrhage or brain bleed. He was in a car accident and had significant burns in his upper extremities, and thus had, decreased fine motor, decreased gross motor, was extremely sensitive to touch, pretty depressed. Also, just kind of his personality really didn't like, he would always say, oh, I hate therapies, like I don't want to. Just required a lot of encouragement to get him to do anything. And also had a diagnosis of keratoconus, which is just a genetic condition where basically you have poor acuities, but it's just like a coning of the cornea. Makes it really difficult to see and is just really sensitive to light. So with him, he's a young guy, can't get him to do anything. So initially, of course, I'm like, yes, virtual reality. This guy will love it, But with him, I was concerned because of the keratoconus, because that just any type of light is extremely, can be extremely painful for their eye. So wasn't sure about that. But, he spent a month at QOI really not doing anything, not really making any progress. So I was like, let's do it. Let's put some sunglasses on this dude and let's get him in the virtual reality system. And we did it, and it was awesome. He was so happy. We played like a racing game, and he's obsessed with cars. And so it was just such a perfect fit for him, gave him some motivation, and we kind of used it as a tool, like, okay, let's do some fine motor, and then if you do this for an hour, you can get on the virtual reality system. So for him, it was kind of more of like a reward, but also had benefits for his upper extremities, movement-wise, but also sensitivity-wise, like, moving your arm and being sensitive to that movement when you are playing a game. You're not realizing that you're moving it, or it's just kind of more automatic, was just a great way to get him kind of desensitized. Yeah, so overall, he's getting ready for discharge right now. He's going to go back home with his family. But he's kind of at a point now where he's walking with a walker, and he's going to return back to his work. And yeah, another success story. Yes. Any questions at all about that? Yes.
So they're all really young. Do you have
Yeah.
younger people with brain injury, or are you just choosing young people for this particular media?
Well, I typically use virtual reality with younger patients, just because it's more relatable, I think. I do have a couple older residents. I have an 81-year-old resident at QLI, which is kind of unheard of, and who I'm thinking about using virtual reality with, but it seems, I think, I don't know, just from like a relation aspect, I don't know if it's necessarily a good fit. Yes. But yeah, you're right. My young patients, I'm like, I always think virtual reality, like, love it, One, because I get to play games too, But yeah, just looking at the research, there is some research with virtual reality in the geriatric population. But what I've found is in those articles, when they refer to virtual reality, it's more so like which this is completely different. On the headset, I don't know if you can see this, it even has like an earpiece. So like you even get that component as well. So you're totally immersed. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Yes.
Is there anything you look for when choosing the games to use with patients,
Mm-hmm.
or are they specifically created for rehabilitation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if there was, I don't know how to phrase that. So if there are games like geared towards certain ways, what's the question?
Like, how do you choose the games that you use for
Okay.
different patients, or are they like the games specifically created for the purpose of rehabilitation?
Gotcha, yes. So the games are not specifically for rehabilitation, but the games that we choose, basically, we kind of have to choose by trial and error. Like, it's not like, oh, you choose a game. Okay, this is for upper extremity scanning, high color stimulation. It's like, okay, I need to try out this game. And then I'm like, wow, I really have to look through my whole environment. This is great for scanning, or like even with the fine motor, like, oh, I have to use my thumb a lot during this. So it's really a lot of, for me, when I started using the virtual reality system, I really had to play around. I spent a day like playing around with it. Basically like, okay, this driving game will be good to target these treatment areas, or these deficits. Yeah, but now that I'm more familiar, I'm like, okay, yes, you will love the zombie tomato game. Yes, you will love like toy box game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is that another area that needs to progress farther, is like labeling games based on deficits?
Yeah, totally. I think because the Oculus Rift is something like you can buy off Amazon, like you yourself can have, just to have and like play. So I think if we could develop, a rehab-based virtual reality system, that is more quantifiable and all of that, I think that's kind of where we need to head. The only problem is at QLI, we're really fortunate because we do have all this funding and all of these resources, but at a typical facility, I wouldn't say you would necessarily see virtual reality, at least yet. And I do think there needs to be a significant amount of more research with virtual reality and specific outcomes. There's a lot with upper extremity. There's not with like return to driving, which I think is big. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
How do you document your sessions?
Yeah. Okay, good question, because at QLI we kind of have a different type of way to document. Like I don't have to document every session. It's kind of just based on insurance companies. If they need a weekly update, if they need a monthly update, if there's someone I haven't wrote 80 notes for since they've been admitted. So it's really unique at QLI. But how I would document this would be, since there are no quantifiable results, to compare it to your last session. So last session, MC was able, I guess it depends too, like, are you working on activity tolerance, vision? So really looking at the deficit or deficits that you're targeting, but also then comparing, I think, is key. And like getting as much quantifiable as you can. So like able to last 5 minutes in a highly stimulated game, that targets scanning, was able to scan 50% of the time to the left, Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's unique about QLI that they have good funding? Is it like supported by some wealthy people? Or, I mean, it sounds like you can do fabulous things, probably more than other places.
Definitely. So, QLI is a nonprofit. And I think it's pretty well known in the community for doing pretty awesome things. And I think that is where we get our funding from, like key players in the Omaha community. Mm-hmm. And then what's really cool is we have just a team of grant writers who their job is to apply and write grants for technology for the rehab team. So they got us like a 0G walker, 0G treadmill. We don't have a Dynavision yet. That is on my to-do list. We have in our Mayo. That was all, granted to us from grants. So it's pretty cool. QLI is definitely more different than any place I've done any of my field works.
And do they stay there permanently, or they always go home? Is there any permanent residents? Or
So QLI is split into, there's like a long-term care side, and then the skilled nursing side. Typically patients can be there, I guess now that we're kind of changing, but 2 to 3 months is a typical length of stay. Mm-hmm. But I have a patient who has been there for 6 months. Kind of just depends on insurance and the progress that they're making. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for your deck, you have to have like a portfolio on how you're like showing
Yeah.
how you're
Mhm.
doing this. So what are you doing? Like, how are you, how are you
Yeah. Yes. So there are a lot of different pieces to my deck specifically, where a lot of my kind of purpose for doing it was to advocate for OT's role in vision rehab, especially at a place like QLI. Like they really didn't have the resources that they could, especially with TBI. I mean, 80% of people with TBI or stroke have visual impairments, and vision is key to our ability to participate in our occupations. So for me, how I'm kind of creating my portfolio, like I have a journal that I'm doing, not doing a blog, but I know a lot of people do a blog. I'm having, so like for keeping 50% therapist caseload, I'm just having my OT sign that for me, like saying, yep, she did it. In my journal, I just have specifics of, okay, today I saw 10 patients specifically for vision and 2 for upper extremity. Other ways, I'll probably put this PowerPoint in there. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I'm doing a lot of like interviewing, also like making connections with neuro-optometrists in the Omaha community, because typically OTs and neuro-optometrists have a really good relationship within vision rehab. So recording and transcribing those interviews. I'm doing like a literature review. Yeah, so it's just kind of a mixture of things that like I'm putting in a Google Drive essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone got one last question? All right. Well, let's thank Sebastian again. Thank you. Are you guys inspired or what? Thanks for coming again.
Probably too quick. I don't know.